a Republican who supports the Obama position on civil unions for same-sex couples, a Republican who may be to the left of the president on gun control and medical marijuana, and a Republican who has definitely been to the left of the president on the treatment of undocumented workers, and a Republican who completely agrees with the president that climate change is real, continues to trick the political media and, more importantly, Wall Street billionaires into thinking he can win the Republican nomination for president if he simply makes everything he has previously said about running for president a lie.
Everyone in the Republican Party but you is talking about that you should be on the ticket in 2012 to run for the White House. You say?
No way.
Gonna run?
No. Not gonna happen.
You're still saying categorically not running.
No,
2012.
I'm not running. I'm 100% certain I'm not going to run. I don't want to run. I don't feel like I'm ready to run. First, you have to have in your heart, you got to want it more than anything else. More than anything else. I don't want it that badly. You have to believe in your heart and in your soul and in your mind that you are ready. And I don't believe that about myself right now.
Herman Cain is the one Republican presidential candidate who is not waiting for Chris Christie to make up his mind before campaigning against him.
I believe that a lot of conservatives, once they know his position on those things that you delineated, they're going to not be able to support him. So I think that that is absolutely a liability for him if he gets in the race.
Why do you think that they won't be able to support him?
Because, you know, most of the conservatives believe that we should enforce our borders. They do not believe people should be here without documentation. They do not believe global warming is a crisis or a threat. Yes, it might be a little bit out there, but they don't see it as a crisis or a threat. And as you go right down the line, he's going to turn off a lot of conservatives with those positions.
NBC's Jamie Gangel is reporting that Chris Christie is giving a presidential run, quote, serious consideration, and has asked several Republicans who are about to endorse other candidates to hold off until Wednesday. As for which way Christie is leaning, Politico says 3 sources who are aware of the discussions in Christie land said their perception is it's likelier than not that he stays out of the 2012 race. However, all 3 said the same thing. It's a family discussion between Christie and his wife, Mary Pat, and he could still decide to run. Joining me now, National Affairs Editor for New York Magazine, John Heilman, also AOL Huffington Post Editorial Director, and MSNBC analyst Howard Feynman. Thank you both for joining me. Howard, you were chuckling as we were ramping back into the latest Christie fever, Christie indecision 2011 discussion. What's so funny about it?
Well, I was just chuckling at the definitive Politico report.
The definitive maybe.
The definitive maybe. I mean, here's what I know. I'm in Johnstown here, so I'm calling New York sources. So, but what my people tell me is that he is seriously considering it. That Chris Duhame, who's very close to him, political consultant close to him, also, by the way, close to Karl Rove, and others have been going around saying, and I said this on the show last week, that they're saying to professionals around the region and around the country, if the governor were to decide to do this, would you be willing to go with him, either as fundraisers or as professional staff people? That doesn't mean he's going to do it. The last word I had before I came in the air was one guy who worked for him at one point saying, look, if he's gone radio silent, that definitely means he's seriously considering it. And that's all I think we can say at this point about his decision-making process.
John, this is your jurisdiction, New York Magazine. New Jersey is definitely considered part of the New York Magazine jurisdiction.
Metro area.
It's your big piece of the week, Christie's moment. What should he do with his moment?
Well, first of all, I'll confirm what Howard's saying. And I think, it's interesting that throughout this year, a lot of, as you know, a lot of big money Republicans in this area have been trying to get him to run. He's been definitive in private as well as in public. No, I'm not going to run. About 2 weeks ago, the nature of the conversation started to change. And it was clear what he was saying to them was something different, that he had started to take it seriously. And I think, and the thing that I tried to write about in this column is that the thing that I think has come to matter to him, what he has realized, is that there is this moment for him now, in the sense that it doesn't happen for you in your life 2 or 3 times when everyone is begging you to run for president. That doesn't happen very often, and you might look at this and say, hey, I'm a Republican in a Democratic state. I might not be reelected 3 years from now. God knows what 2016, 2020 are going to look like. This is my shot. I might not win, but this is the clearest shot I have at the White House, and I think at the urging of a lot of people, he started to take that advice more seriously, to the point where at least he feels like he has to go through the process right now of seriously considering getting in.
You know, Lawrence, I think politics is different from the way it used to be. When we were kids, Richard Nixon ran for president 3 times. Ronald Reagan ran for president 3 times. It was more of a generational thing where you build up your contacts. You traveled the country. You know, you went airplane stop to airplane stop, train stop to train stop. It's different now.
And losing once was just considered good batting practice for next season.
Good practice. And now in the digital age, and I think with the speed up of media in part and the change in the nature of politics, it's come to be viewed that you've got your moment, you've got your window. That's what happened with Barack Obama. He caught the moment, and that's sort of the new template, and that's probably what Chris Christie's out there in New Jersey thinking about right now.
And the opposite is what happened with Hillary Clinton when she gave she went through this exact same thing in 2008, 2003. Should I get into the race? Everyone was begging her to run. She said, no, I'll wait till 2008. And then look what happened. She didn't get the shot in 2008. She's not going to get the shot in 2012. Her time may now be gone. Her best moment wasted. I think Christie's thinking about that as the negative example with the Obama on the positive side.
Mario Cuomo had one of those moments in 1992. That was his moment to run. It turns out he didn't. I mean, and I think there was a lot of presumption at the time, I know, in Democratic circles, hey, George H.W. Bush is going to be reelected. This is not the one to waste it on, the 92 campaign. He may have calculated he could run in 96, but that was gone.
And by the way, I think that kind of thinking's over, too, about the power of incumbency. In our toxic atmosphere, at a time when the public thinks only 12% of the American public likes the Congress, when President Obama's ratings are low, the nature of incumbency has changed. It doesn't frighten anybody anymore.
Okay, here's one of the things that I think may be going on here, which was exhibited at the Reagan Library. He was asked twice last week at that speech. The first time it was dismissive, classic Christie, just watch my tape. That was his answer. It was kind of that wise guy New Jersey thing. And his tape, by which he meant every single time I've said, no, I'm absolutely not running. Then he's asked again, and he's asked by a very emotional woman who seems to almost be on the verge of tears. And he has to meet her emotionally. He realizes, hey, wait a minute. I can't toy with these people. I have to make her feel as though I'm joining this thing that she's concerned about. I have a feeling that could be going on now. All these Wall Street billionaires who have no idea how to pick candidates, just ask Rudy Giuliani and others. He wants them to feel heard. He wants them to feel that all of their wise advice has been considered, and he's giving them yet another hearing. He doesn't want to be dismissive on his way to Wednesday or at some point this week saying what he's always said.
Well, if nothing else, he wants to show them, against the data that he might actually have to be able to try to run again, that he took them seriously, that he does take them seriously. That's sort of your point.
Yeah. He's a very smart guy, and he looks at Rick Perry and thinks that Rick Perry is both the temptation and it's the warning sign, right? The temptation is, look, there's still this opening here. The establishment doesn't love Mitt Romney. Rick Perry is fading fast. I could get in here and maybe sweep this thing, just run right through. On the other hand, look what happened to Rick Perry. As unprepared as he was, Christie looks at the situation. I've not had any chance. I don't really know that much about foreign policy. I don't know that much about national domestic policy. What happens if I get up in the hot glare of the lights in the first debate, and what happens to me happened to Rick Perry? So he's a very delicate balance for him to try to figure out which side to come down on.
Now, Christie knows he's never once been in a public debate about Social Security, about Medicare, national defense, all these big and complex issues. He probably also knows he just needs one good index card worth of material to win a Republican debate on any one of those subjects, right? To sound smart enough. But does he know what obviously Perry didn't know? Perry, obviously wasn't crossing his mind what the name of his hunting camp was. In other words, all those vulnerabilities that you pick up over the course of your lifetime, something you said in college to someone that you shouldn't have said, is Christie smart enough to know where every one of those things is buried in his resume?
Well, I think the obvious answer to both of us, having covered a lot of campaigns, is no. Yes. You don't know at all what it's like until you get in it. And don't forget, the time is of the essence here. There's a debate in New Hampshire next week. The filing deadline in New Hampshire is in mid to late October. And if he were to get in it, he's a candidate tailor-made for New Hampshire because he's a straight-talking guy who took on the unions, and he's a low-tax guy. That's his natural habitat. If he can't gear up in New Hampshire, he can't afford to skip New Hampshire. So he's got a lot to think about at one time.
How much of this is your fault? And by you, I mean, by you, my friend, I mean the New York media. The guys across the river in New Jersey, he can come over here and do Morning Joe and do all these shows with Greta. If this guy was the governor of Kansas, would this be happening?
No, under no circumstances would it be happening. I mean, and I think we do, the New York media, not me personally, we take our cues from these big billionaires. And we hear these billionaires all day long telling us about how Chris Christie could be the savior. And, we're like lapdogs. We just follow him wherever they lead us.
I disagree with that a little bit. No hair shirt wearing here. I think Christie would be a phenom anywhere he was. Yeah.
Well, the important thing, though, about where he is that if you have a Republican who is actually a threat to win places like New Jersey, New York, some of the Northeast states, then you have a whole new table to
Well, the obvious thing is getting from here to there. And don't forget, there's also vice presidential stuff going on here, which we haven't talked about.
I could do this all night, but you know what? We have other guests and other things that are going to happen in this show. Howard Fineman of the Huffington Post and John Heilemann of New York Magazine, thank you both very much for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Coming up, Rick Perry's new campaign crisis. Could the racially charged offensive title written on a rock at the entrance of a ranch be the end of a presidential campaign? And later, the Occupy Wall Street protesters spread across the country. In New York, demonstrators got a visit from the former chief economist of the World Bank, the Nobel Prize-winning professor Joseph Stiglitz. He will join me later to explain what has those protesters out there in the street. That's coming up.